Most of my relatives are religious, whether it's from a Protestant background, Reform, or from Catholic background. And both of them, they're so set. I talked to them, and they said, I talked to my cousin, where does it say in the Bible? Well, that's just the way I was taught in the church. Or this is where we were taught in Sunday school, or the way we taught by the priest, or whatever it is. But I keep on saying, where does it say in the Bible? No, but this is the way it's supposed to be done. If you pray, you have to do it a certain way, you have to say it so many ways, or whatever it is. Over and over, they're so entrenched by their culture or by their tradition. They could not break out because they said this is the way it was taught. I have one cousin even that, never mind. Don't forget this. I don't want to get in trouble. Okay, and then I have to be careful what I have to say here. So this is a bigger church now. Okay. So, but anyway, the point is, we can be so entrenched in our cultures, in our tradition, even church tradition, even denominational tradition, and if it's not in the Bible, we need to break away. I want you to know something. What I want to share with you. You have to understand clearly what I'm going to say. We can become a scholar of the Bible and yet be in bondage. We can become an expert of the Bible and yet have no relationship with God. You can know everything here. I think even Jesus said, this is one of them that says in Matthew, hypocrites, well, did Isaiah prophesy about you saying, these people draw near to me with their mouth and honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. And in vain they worship me, teaching as doctrines the commandments of men. See, they know the law. The Pharisees know the 613 laws perfectly. But yet their heart is far from God. I heard several stories where people who were Christians and they went to seminary and they come out from the seminary, become an atheist. I used to hear that. And I said, well, can that be possible? Last year, I met a friend. He went to the same seminary as I did in Canada, Canadian Theological Seminary. He went to seminary after I left, but he ended up marrying a good friend of mine. And so I got to know him because of the marriage. So last year when I went back to Toronto, they invited us for lunch. We were having lunch together. Mimi was there, our whole family and his family and so on. We were sitting together. And I finally heard firsthand from a friend who went to seminary, my seminary, the same seminary I went. And he told us in lunchtime, he says, Ed, when I went in seminary, I lost my faith. When I graduated from seminary, I had nothing to do with ministry. I don't want to do anything with God because everything I learned in the seminary was not practical. It was not something that we can live out. It's just more like in here. So he said for a few months, maybe 6 months or a year after he left seminary, he just doesn't want anything to do with God or ministry until God convicted him slowly. And now he's serving full-time, using his gift as an IT, but he serves in a Christian organization. But I heard it from my own friends, church, that you can be a scholar of the Word of God, an expert, but we turn ourselves away from God, that we still be in legalism, in bondage. It becomes a mental exercise. So be careful, church. So let me go to the last point, which is my main point that I want to, most important point probably for this month. And this is something I just learned recently as well. Freedom from legalism comes through a person. Freedom from legalism comes through a person. Bible tells us, nevertheless, when one turns to the Lord, the veil is taken. But look at this. Now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Okay? The letter kills, the Spirit gives lives. And it says here that where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Maybe you know this verse for a long time. I did. But it wasn't until just a few months ago that I began to learn something that was like my eyes was unveiled. And it's become such an incredible illumination in my heart when a few of us went to a seminar. For a long time, I always thought that freedom from something means that we need to take away those things from us. So if you have problem with smoking, well, take the cigarette away. You have problem with junk food, let's say. You're eating junk food. Clean up your kitchen, your pantry. You have a problem with video games, take away your video games. You have a problem with pornography, you take away the internet, whatever it is, okay? You have a problem with alcohol, you take away the alcohol away. That used to be the way we think. If you want freedom from something, you take away those objects that you want to be free from. I'm not saying that's not true, but here's what I'm saying. Removing those objects that we want to be free from should be an outflow because of a true freedom that happens in our heart first. So according to this definition, freedom does not come by removing things from us. Freedom comes when somebody comes into our life. When somebody comes into our marriage. When somebody comes into this ministry. When somebody comes into our business, our workplace, our home. And that someone, of course, is Jesus, the Spirit of God. When the Spirit of God comes into our life, into our marriage, into our ministry, that's where freedom comes. Not by removing the things, not by removing the stuff, because we can only be free from the inside out, not from the outside in. So when we're free inside, then I will remove that. Let's say this is a pornographic magazine. When Jesus comes into my life, when I invite Jesus to be the reign over my sexuality, suddenly this pornography, I put it away. But if we tell a person to put this away before I am free inside, it'll be just a matter of time before I grab it back, before I'll be constantly thinking about it. So freedom comes not by removing something. Freedom comes through the presence of a person, in this case, the person of Jesus Christ. You see, freedom, like I said, it comes from the inside out. Jesus talks about this. You can look free in the outside, but be in bondage inside. Jesus mentioned this once in Matthew. He said, you have heard that it was said, you shall not commit adultery. But I say to you, everyone who looks at a woman with the lust of her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. So a person may be innocent physically in the outside. The person will say, wow, that person is free from adultery. But inside, that person is full of lust. He's already in bondage of adultery, according to Jesus' word here. So you can look outside, you can look free, but inside still been bondage. But the contrary is also true. You can look in bondage outside, but yet you're truly free inside because you have Jesus. Take a look at this example that most of us probably know about Paul and Silas, okay? And they were laid many stripes, talking about Paul and Silas, and they threw them into prison, commanding the jailer to keep them securely. Having received such a charge, he put into the inner prison and fastened their feet in the stocks, okay? But at midnight, Paul and Silas were praying and singing hymns to God, and the prisoners were listening to them. So take a look at that, church. Physically, they were in prison. Physically, their feet were in stocks. They were in bondage physically. But spiritually, they were free. They were worshiping the Lord so loud. They were praying and worshiping so loud that other prisoners in the neighborhood, prison neighborhood, okay, were able to hear it. See, outside you can look like you're trapped. But because you have the presence of Christ inside of us, we're free. And I want to encourage all of us here together. Freedom is not by getting a new husband, a new wife. Freedom is not about going to a new church. Freedom is not getting a new job. Freedom is not getting a new boss, a new this and that. Not necessarily. I'm not saying that we cannot change things. But true freedom is inside. We can go to a new church and still be in bondage inside because the spirit of legalism is still there. We can get a new boss but still be unhappy because of our attitude. Right? We can get a new job and still be unhappy. But Paul and Silas, they were in prison, stuck, but they were free inside. Let me give you an illustration, church. I was a youth pastor for 10 years, and one of the problems sometimes parents have with their teenagers is video games. They're stuck, right? Sometimes parents talk to us, and I can't believe my son, he's playing like hours and hours and hours of video games, And back in my time, we don't have video games. We play kites, right? Or klereng, right? In the village. Stuart is laughing, so we know how old we are, okay? So, and, we play badminton, kiting, and you name it, playing with those little animals that crawl, that's fun, But now everything's, gadgeting and everything, right? And, but anyway, parents will try to do anything to grab their kids away from the video games. Sometimes they negotiate, okay, you stop that, we'll give you